All right, good evening, everyone. So for this video, I'm going to be breaking down how you would go about basically being able to see the margins required for any future and all futures that you might want to trade. So first, what we're going to want to do, we're going to go to Google. We're going to type in Tradovate margins. Press enter. And right here where it says margins futures trading platform, you can click that once. And now we are here. On this website, you will be able to see all of the futures that Tradovate has to offer that you can trade. So let's just say, you want to know how much it takes to trade ES. Well, all you would do is type in ES, search ES, E-mini, S&P 500. In futures, we have the minis and the micros. So I'm only going to talk about and just really because the initial, it doesn't really matter necessarily unless you're trying to swing trade over the weekend, which I highly doubt any of you are. So if you have any questions about that, feel free to message me. But we're just going to focus on the day, the tick, and the value per point. So this $500 right here is how much you need in your either, well, we'll just talk from a personal account perspective. If you're on a platform, you don't really have to worry about this. But if you're trying to trade money with your own personal capital, you would need to deposit a minimum of $500 in your account to be able to trade the E-mini S&P 500 futures. Now, just because you have $500 in your account does not mean still that it's safe to trade. Because if you at any point in time dip $1 below the margin requirement, you will get what's called auto liquidated and you'll be stopped out of your trade because now you no longer have enough capital in your account to be able to trade the future. I've kind of stated before, I like to look at these marginal requirements almost like clubs, meaning that, if you want to get into club ES, you need to have a minimum of $500 in your pocket at all time. The moment that you don't have $500 in your pocket at all time, you will get thrown out the club. So it's always safe to make sure that you are well above the marginal requirement. So if you were looking to trade ES, it's be better off to start off with maybe $700, $800, even maybe $1,000, because now you are $500 above that buffer. So now I'm going to talk about over here, and I'm going to get into it more in the next video, where we have the tick, how much we move per tick, and then value per point. So in futures, every time you move one whole new number, that counts as 1 point. Points are also sometimes referred to as handles. I don't refer to it as handles, and that's kind of like in my opinion, it's an outdated way of talking about it. But nonetheless, if you want to refer to it as handles or points, it really does not matter. But nonetheless, on the ES futures, we move at a quarter value per point. All right. So we move at the increment of 0.25 per tick. And for every 0.25 that we move, whether to the upside or the downside, we will make $12.50. This does not change. So this is the part of the futures where we are buying and selling contracts at a flat rate. All right. So this is the flat rate. And then we are also able to calculate how much we can make per tick without having to guesstimate. If you have one contract of ES futures and you move at $12.50 per tick. If you have two contracts, you would move at $25 per tick. If you had three contracts, you move at $37.50 per tick, because for every one contract you have, well, let me rephrase that. For every contract that you have, you'll move at this much per tick, but then you just multiply your contracts by how much you would already move at per tick. So because if you have one contract, move at 1250. If you have, 3, 4, 5, 6 contracts, you just multiply 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or whatever times the 1250, and that's how much you'll be moving at per tick. And it's really easy to calculate your stop losses and take profits. Very simple that way. Now, if you ever want to know how many points are in a tick, considering that, you have to get to the next whole number in order to get to a point. All you would want to do is divide the value per point by how much it moves per tick. And that's how you know how many ticks for the ticker in which you're trading are in 1 point. So what I mean by that is if you divide 50 by 1250, you get 4. There are 4 ticks in every point on ES, which would make sense because we're moving at a quarter of a value of a point per tick. And there's 4 quarters in 1 point. So it's 0.25, 0.5, 0.75 whole. So how that would look like is, let's just say you were at level 100, right? If you go to level 100.25, you just made $12.50. If you go to level 100.5, you just made $25. If you go to level 100.75, you just made $37.50. And if you go to level 101, you've now moved 1 whole point, which is $50. So I hope that makes sense. And as you can see right here, these are the contracts in the months that are available for this future. So if you ever want to make sure, or just to double check that you're trading the right futures contract, all you got to do is, like I said, type in whatever future pair that you trade. It could be gold, ES, platinum, whatever the case might be, and you just come here and you see the HMUZ. So if we hover over this question mark, we can let me get this right. We can see that the letter H corresponds with March. So it's the first 3 months of the year. So these contracts, these futures contracts, will expire in March. So you want to trade the March contracts. And then when it gets to March, we then switch to M, which is the June contracts. So when it gets to June, right, then we would go to the U contracts. And then when it gets to September, we go to the December contracts. So basically every 3 months on the ES and also NQ, because ES and NQ move the same, they just move at different increments per tick, and I'll show that. Every 3 months, we are changing out the current contracts that we're supposed to be trading. Now, as I stated, in futures, we have micros and minis. Micros predominantly are a tenth of what I said that right, yeah. Micros are a tenth most of the times of what a mini costs and moves at. So if we look here on ES, right, we can see that the marginal requirement is $500. We're at $12.50 per tick, and it's $50 per point. If we go to MES, the M always stands for micro. So we type in MES, right? We can see that now, if you're someone that, say, only has $300 or $400 to start trading with, this really is beneficial for you. Now, you can trade micro ES comfortably because the margin required is only $50. So to get into club MES, you need to have a minimum of $50 in your pocket at all times. So, right, so $50 is required. You move at $1.25 per tick, and it's $5 per point. All these numbers, if you compare and contrast them, are a tenth less than what the mini is, or a tenth of what the mini would cost. So on the ES mini, it's $500 in your account at all times. You move at $1.25 per tick and $5 per point. And that's MES and ES. Now, if we were to go to, say, NQ, right? Those are probably 2 most popular ones that everyone's going to trade. How this would work is you need $1,000 in your account at all times. You move at $5 per tick and $20 per point. Now, once again, if we want to figure out how many ticks are in a point, all that we have to do is divide the 20 by the 5, and we get an answer of 4, which confirms that there are 4 ticks in every point on NQ. And now if we go to M and Q, right? Once again, all the numbers are a tenth of the mini. So on NQ, we only need $100 in our account at all times. We'll move at 50 cents per tick and $2 per point. All these numbers are, once again, 1/10 of a mini. So whether you want to trade the micros or the minis are completely up to you. And that doesn't matter if you're on a platform or personal. Just make sure you know that, once again, that you're trading within your account size. So as you can see, you can start trading futures with as little as realistically $100 on MNQ and $50 for ES. But as always, I recommend starting out with at least 300 to 500 is kind of ideal. $500 is I'd say the better of the two. And just show two more examples. If let's just say we wanted to trade gold futures, right? So gold is GC. So as we can see, you need a minimum balance of $1,000 to trade gold futures. We move at $10 per tick, but we move at, how do I explain this? We move at 1/10 of a point per tick, and there's $100 in every point. So once again, if we want to figure out how many ticks are in a 1-point move on gold, we divide 100 by 10, and we get an answer of 10. And also that correlates because we're moving at 1/10 of a point per tick on gold as well. So that's 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9 new whole number. Hope that makes sense. I'll also be showing examples as well in the following video. And then if we would go to micro gold futures, if we want to trade the micro gold because maybe the mini is too expensive. So like I said, predominantly for my micro gold, it's 1/5 of the marginal requirement, but it's 1/10 of indifference for how much we move at per tick and per point. So it's still at the same increment of 0.1, but instead of the marginal requirement on gold being $100, it's $200. So the marginal requirement is 1/5 of what the mini is, but it moves at 1/10 of the value. It moves at 1/10 of the value per tick. And it's obviously correlates to the value per point as well. So 10 divided by 1 is 10, and that would make sense because there are 10 ticks in one whole point. And once again, here are the current contracts. The G, J, M, Q, V, Z. So we always want to stay ahead of what the contract how to explain this. You always want to stay ahead of the contract you're supposed to be on. So if we're in the month of, right now it's the month of February, you'd want to be on the March or April contracts because the further the contract is, to an extent, it's going to have the better volume and it's more profitable for you to trade. You never really want to be trading, for instance, the March contract in the month of March because those contracts are getting ready to expire. So you always want to be ahead or just slightly ahead. So right now, it's currently February, so there is no H contract, so we have to then go to the J. All right, it's currently February, which is why we wouldn't want to trade the G contracts. So you want to go to the J contracts. And then when it gets closer to April, we'd want to go to the M contracts. When it gets closer to June, we want to go to the August contracts. And then V and Z, I believe, is September and December contracts. But that's how you go about trading the gold futures, NQ, NES. It really doesn't matter what future you want to trade, even for those of you that, you might trade natural gas, which is NG. Very straight to the point as far as how it moves and everything like that. And, for some of y'all, if you want to trade oil futures, which is CL, crude oil, these are the requirements that you want to make sure. If you want to write this down, commit this to memory on your own free time. Even so, myself, a trader, I check Tradovate margins periodically just to make sure that I understand everything that is going on, just so I'm always on the right contracts, and most importantly that everything makes sense. But nonetheless, thank y'all for watching. If you have any further questions, on Tradovate margins, or anything else you're just concerned about or just want to clear up, once again, feel free to message myself, Rico, or any other mods at any point in time. And now let's get on to the next video.